Okay, I'm about to get way too into this. So in Avengers Infinity War, Thanos is a villain because his Malthusian solution to resource scarcity fails to account for the material conditions of scarcity. So where does this all come from? So, people who on the internet who their videos are popular, discuss movies, and then they get into the ideological discussions and the themes and all that. And so, I watched some of the videos um, about Avengers Infinity War and other people's opinions on Thanos. And then you see videos like Thanos is right. You see a video explaining Thanos's Malthusian ideology. You see the absurdity of Thanos's plan. So I want to do a take that I haven't seen yet in the discussion around Avengers Infinity War. So I'm going to talk about Thanos's plan and how it fails to um, solve the problem that he claims it will solve. So, first of all, what is the problem that Thanos is trying to solve? That's the problem of resource scarcity. He says it himself. Let's see, right? When he's talking to Gamora, um, and Thanos is telling Gamora about her planet afterwards, he says, they were going to bed hungry, scrounging for scraps. Your planet was on the brink of collapse. I was the I was the one who stopped that. You know what happened since then? The children born have known nothing but full bellies and clear skies. It's a paradise. So, uh, right. So his problem, his idea is that there is an issue with resource scarcity in the universe, and this is causing people to suffer and to go hungry. And the the problem that he proposes is to half the life in all the universe in order to be able to decrease the demand for resources. So, what is resource scarcity? So, resource scarcity, resource scarcity is all around us on this planet, but what is resource scarcity in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? So, in the MCU, planet Earth is much like ours, but with technology that's more advanced and there's magic and other stuff, but it functions structurally the same way. I mean, the capitalism is alive on it exists on planet Earth. There's currency and there's governments and there are corporations and money exists, and we know that this is true um, throughout the cosmos on the different planets that we've seen in the Guardians of the Galaxy and in the Thor movies. There are similar structures. There's government, there are corporations, there's people buying and selling, there's currency. And currency requires a certain level of centralization. Government implies a certain level of centralization. The fact that Asgard is ruler over the nine realms implies that there's and also the Thor Ragnarok movie explains that there's imperialism um, in the cosmos, in the Marvel cosmos. So we know that there is government, currency, hierarchical control over the means of production. So Thanos plans to solve the problem of resource scarcity by um, collecting the Infinity Stones. He says that this is the most merciful way possible because it doesn't. He's not gonna pick rich or poor. It's completely at random. It's the most merciful way of carrying out this half the his plan. I remind you, before he is collecting the Infinity Stones, as he's planning to do it, and he's uh, he's going planet by planet, murdering half of the population of every planet that he comes across, in his sense to bring balance to between resource supply and resource demand. Um, and yeah, I've explained the problem that Thanos is trying to solve. I explained how Thanos plans to solve the problem. Why does Thanos believe his plan will solve the problem? Well, Thanos believes he says it himself. It's a simple calculation. Um, Too many mouths, not enough to go around. Da, 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 da. I don't know if I can find the quote, but anyway, the he believes he's right, and he has some basis for. Let's see, the basis that he believes he's right. So he was someone on the planet Titan, um, perhaps someone of influence. I'm not exactly sure. The movie doesn't say, but someone who at least believed that their opinion should be considered. And on Titan, there was a resource scarcity, an incident of resource scarcity. How that resource scarcity it, uh, came about is not explained, but Thanos proposes this Malthusian idea of just randomly having the population, and the people don't take him up on his offer. Something happens, and um, Titan is destroyed. When we see the destruction of Titan, we see that it's laid desolate. We see that there are large buildings. We see that the planet lays desolate. I mean, that the kind of centralization that you need in order to enact war on a planetary scale that leaves the planet destroyed implies a certain level of centralization as well. So we can say that there was a government. Um, there were. I mean, we can't say whether or not they were businesses or they took whatever form, but the point is that there was some smaller group of people that held control over the means of production over other people. Whether that took place, however that hierarchy wants to take form. Just like in the rest of the cosmos that we've seen, hierarchies everywhere. Um, so, what's the problem with Thanos' solution? The problem is that not everyone consumes resources equally, and we have our own planet Earth to see that. The the majority of pollution on this planet is caused by like 50 corporations. The majority of these polluting companies, it's not like you can blame the entire company. You can really just say, the executives making these decisions that destroy our planet, hoard the resources, destroy resources. Um, there's not that many people. The ideology, the dominant ideology on planet Earth places individual responsibility on environmentalism when the reality is that it isn't everybody equally causing environmental destruction. It's people making conscious decisions to produce the things that we want and need in an environmentally destructive way for the sake of profit. Boom. Um, so the problem is he wants to eliminate rich and poor alike, but the people who are consuming the most resources is only a small percentage of the population. Again, the hierarchy, and hierarchies aren't natural. Um, Actually, I have some quotes about that. Okay, this first one, the first quote, Karl Marx. Nature does not produce on the one side owners of money or commodities, and on the other men possessing nothing but their own labor power. This relation has no natural basis. Neither is its social basis one that is common to all historical periods. It is clearly the result of a past historical development, the product of many economic revolutions, of the extinction of a whole series of older forms of social production, which is to say, the hierarchy that is experienced universally in the cosmos of the MCU is not natural, it's rather imposed by the sentient beings on each respective planet somehow have all managed to duplicate this order in which, as the quote says, on the one side, owners of money or commodities, and on the other, men possessing nothing but their own labor power. Which, as you know, the one side, the owners of money or commodities, are a very small number of people, and on the other side, the men possessing nothing but their own labor power is a much larger group in our popular rhetoric. That's the 1% and the 99%. So let's go with that, right? So here's another one by Murray Bookchin. Right? There are no hierarchies in nature other than those imposed by hierarchical modes of human thought, but rather differences merely in function between and within living things. So Murray Bookchin is speaking from a social ecology point of view, and the social ecology being like a meta-analysis of environmentalism. It's hard to explain. There's a lot of facets to it. Social ecology is more than just one thing. But anyway, this was from post-scarcity anarchism. So the idea is that if you have these two groups of people, one group that controls the resources and the other group of people that have to um, sell their labor in order to be able to access those resources, there's no forever that balance is not natural. It's not imposed. There's nothing like that in nature. There's just different roles connected there. There's nothing that works independently in nature. Everything is interconnected, interdependent, not independent, but interdependent. So um, Thanos' plan fails to take into account any sort of class analysis, and therefore, all he's doing is, well, he's halving the people who have to sell their labor in order to access resources, but he's also halving the people who own the resources um, and sell access to it. So he's just having the bosses, which means that there's no change in the structure from access to resources. So really, if Thanos wants to solve the problem of resource scarcity, he should not collect the Infinity Stones to snap his fingers to half the population of the sentient universe, as John Malthus would suggest. Rather, he should collect all six Infinity Stones to snap his fingers and just eliminate 1% of the population of the sentient universe, that 1% being the 1% that controls access to the resources, and allow the 99% to have democratic control over the resources in a for use system rather than a for profit system. Maybe that's something that I should have explained in this video, why it is that a for use system is better than a for profit system, and why it wouldn't cause the environmental destruction that I guess Thanos sees as inevitably true. That's something true. Thanos Thanos has a point, but then he misses the mark on how to solve it. Like he sees that 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 this hoarding of resources, that the way that this hierarchical ideology that takes hold on every planet, which I guess is required to reach some sort of, I mean, not required, but it seems to be the easiest way to reach a spacefaring civilization, um, is that he can't, um, sorry, that's not the way I want to say it, is that he sees that eventually there's going to be conflict, and that conflict is going to lead to war, and that war is going to lead to destruction, because any society that's advanced enough to go to space is advanced enough to destroy their own planet um, in war. So he sees that, and he's right about that. But rather than seeing that the cause of that war is because access to resources is unequal, he just sees having the demand for resources as the solution. And so it's this. So it's this problem. The fact is, it isn't. He has to eliminate that motive for profit, and the only way you can eliminate the motive for profit is by democratically, um, is by allowing them, forcing democratic access on the means of production, which you would do if you eliminated the people who were responsible for upholding that hierarchy and benefiting from that hierarchy. So what what would a Marxist Thanos look like in Infinity War? Well, he wouldn't show. Well, he it's not shown, but he would go to Xandar, and rather than halving the population of Xandar in order to access the Power Stone, he would just go and say, "Give me your leaders, and you're wealthy, and I'll kill all of them, and I'll take the Power Stone, and I'll leave you all alone." And just give me like 100 people in a Power Stone, and we'll be good. Uh, that's a different kind of bargain. Very different kind of bargain. Um, hey, join my collective. Give me the Space Stone, and I'll let you join my Thanos cult collective. And then maybe the Asgardians would have been more amenable. The Reality Stone, well, yeah. So anyway, you would see, and then he would come to Earth, and he'd be like, "Give me Tony Stark, give me King T'Challa, give me all of your government leaders and all of your wealthy people, and I'll take those 2 Infinity Stones, and you can have the rest of the planet. I won't have to kill any of you." That would make a very different movie, wouldn't it? And I'm not saying that Thanos is a good guy. He's definitely a villain. He's the protagonist of the movie, but he's a villain. Our heroes are the same heroes they've always been, but they are the antagonists of the movie. Anyway, so there you go. That's what I wanted to say. Thanos is a villain because he doesn't understand dialectical materialism. He fails to take into account the material conditions of the cause of resource scarcity, and that is why his plan will not solve the problem that he intends to solve.